let's continue with the program. Let me have the pleasure of inviting our next speaker. This is a company presentation. This is going to be a presentation about Renforth Resources. Renforth Resources holds a significant battery metals property in Quebec, along with a nearby gold deposit. The property, which contains nickel, cobalt, platinum, and palladium combined with zinc, copper, silver, and gold, enjoys road access and nearby rail line, hydroelectric power lines on the property, and social acceptability from the nearby mining communities and the First Nation. So speaking on behalf of Renforth Resources is Nicole Brewster. She's the president and CEO of Renforth Resources. Just a couple of words about her background. She has a very long and distinguished career, but she's been a successful private corporation background in the mineral exploration industry, both as a property owner and exploration contractor and a management consultant. Ms. Brewster is a hands-on business person, comfortable operating and managing companies within regulatory framework and requirements, including environmental and labor legislation, quality assurance, and best practices for exploration. There's more to her background, but let's leave it there so we can learn a little bit more about Renforth Resources.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining me today. As you heard, I am Nicole Brewster, and I am the president and the CEO. Renforth trades in the United States as RFHRF on the OTC, and in Canada on the CSE, the symbol's RFR. So, without too much ado, I'm going to jump into the presentation. I'm going to share my screen, and you will be able to see my deck. I do want to apologize for my outfit and background. I'm in the right now, so I'm dressed a little casually. So here comes the screen I need to share. I'm going to put it into presentation mode so it gets nice and big for you. I'm unsure if you can see my cursor as I do this, so I'll describe things, hopefully. And here we go. So those are the trading symbols, RFHRF and RFR. And I do have to caution you, I am the president, the CEO. This is not impartial. It is not financial advice. You should always do your own due diligence and consult your own advisors. Everything I'm going to tell you is publicly available. We have a profile on our CDR site. And if nothing else, if you have any questions, give me an email, nicole@renforthresources.com. So, what is Renforth? Renforth's a junior exploration company with two very compelling properties. I'm actually right now in Malartic, in the town of Malartic, which is just off the center of this map. Malartic is a gold camp. We have the giant Canadian Malartic mine in town and a neighbor to our Parbreck gold deposit. The reason I'm in town is that we're in the midst actually of doing a resource update to our Parbreck gold deposit. Nearby, 5-minute drive from where I'm sitting in an apartment in town right now, is our very large Malartic metals package. Not as advanced as our gold deposit. We have not declared a resource there yet. However, we have drilled fairly tightly over 2.5 kilometers of a 20-kilometer polymetallic structure with about 10,000 meters of drilling. And that structure is replicated a couple times on the property. So we're talking about a vast amount of polymetallic mineralization, primarily sulfide nickel. There's also copper, zinc, cobalt, platinum, and palladium. And on that property in the far north, separately, there's a copper discovery, which is very early stage. It was a complete discovery. So we'll talk about both properties. As I said, I'm here because we're updating the resource on the gold deposit. So that is our focus this quarter, but hopefully that'll lead to a way that we can either generate cash flow internally, or we can, we'll monetize it somehow to further our efforts at the nickel property. So where is Malartic? Malartic is in Quebec, Canada. It's not in the far north. It's only about, by road, it's about a 12-hour drive from New York City. It's about a 6-hour drive from Montreal and 8.5 from Toronto. You can see the little map inset in the bottom corner. Now, looking at the map specific to our properties, it's important to note all the yellow mine symbols are either gold mines, former, current, or gold deposits, showings. Definitely a gold camp, but a few important things to note as well. The Horn Smelter is in Rouyn-Noranda. It's approximately an hour from the Malartic property. And for the gold deposit, we have numerous toll mills available. We could toll mill with Westwood, with Laurent, with Canadian Malartic, with Kiena. The list goes on without having to go too far, more than half an hour away from the gold deposit. So in each instance, we do have production options that can reduce our capex. Other important things to note specific to, well, the Parbec gold deposit is just off of the northern route of the Trans-Canada Highway, Highway 117. It is beside the Canadian Malartic mine. It is accessible by road. We take federal and municipal roads, and then we have a lumber road driving right over the gold deposit, actually. Similarly, at the Malartic Metals package, and we'll give the cursor a go just in case you can see it. The Malartic Metals package has a road going down the center of it, which leads to a hydroelectric generating station to the south. There's also one to the southwest. The road and the power line for that also cross the property. So Victoria, which is our 20-kilometer nickel polymetallic structure, can be serviced by clean energy. 98% of the electricity generated in the province of Quebec is actually hydroelectric electricity. We also have roads. This is a rail line which would go down to Montreal, and we can drive to deep water ports. North of us, the Dumont nickel deposits owned by, I think the company name now is Nion, but in fact it's Waterton Private Equity, and they put about $500 million into it. Not in production yet. They're looking at a heap leach scenario, whereas we are sulfide nickel, so we're pursuing a flotation model. We'll talk first about our gold deposit. Gold, of course, is timely. Price of gold when I looked at it this morning was $2,700 US per ounce. In other currencies like our Canadian dollar, gold is significantly higher. We wholly own Parbec. It has a 3% gross metal royalty. It's a small property, very easy to maintain. It's got lots of work filed on it, so it's in good standing for quite a while. But what are we doing? We've interpreted the geology here with a new lens. It was always presumed the geology stayed in the Cadillac Break, which is a massive structure. All those mines we saw on the last slide were pretty much on the Cadillac Break. And we do have mineralization on the property in the break, but we also have mineralization on the property going into the sediments to the south, which is novel, but it's not unique. Our neighbor next door, the Canadian Malartic mine, has that very situation, and we had it elsewhere on the break. What it does do, it's important because it opens up the amount of gold-bearing potential ground we're dealing with significantly. So the ongoing resource up is exciting. Our last resource was effective December 2019, published in May 2020. You can see on here, it gave us 104,000 indicated ounces at a grade of 1.78 grams per ton, 177,000 ounces at 1.77 grams per ton. So perhaps not the largest resource. However, it's important to note that this resource is in an incredibly well-serviced, mature gold camp with road access and mineralization starting at surface. So it has open pit potential. That being said, subsequent to this resource, we drilled 15,000 meters in 2020 and 21, and we validated about 13,000 historic meters from the 1980s and 90s, which went into kind of the heart of the deposit and were excluded from the December 19 calculation you see here. So we're quite excited to be bringing pretty much as much data as is in this December 2019 calculation. We're bringing more to bear. So here we go, a little detail about our gold deposit, which is shallow. 80% of our gold deposit is above a depth of only 300 meters. Understand that next door at Canadian Malartic, the Odyssey mine, which is in the same setting we're in with gold south in the Pontiac sediments, south of the break, that deposit started at 1,000 meters depth. Cadillac Break is a structure with significant depth potential. So we have high assays. We do see grades 118 grams per ton, 67, 56, 38, very high grades. So there is a high grade, there's a nugget effect, but there's very high grade gold on the property. But there's also long intervals, 21 meters, 24 meters, 49 meters of gold mineralization. These are significant numbers as well. So it's quite a nice deposit. Now, this is in green, the pit shell and the drill trace. The lines you see are the traces of drill holes we've drilled. The green is what is in the December 2019 resource statement. The red lines are drill holes, the 15,000 meters we drilled after calculating that resource. And then the blue is the 13,000 meters of historic drilling that was excluded from the green resource. So we're going to bring the blue and the red into the green resource. And you can see the concentration of drilling in the heart of the deposit that was excluded from the last resource. So we're quite excited about that. Metal factor, it's a way some people like to calculate the value of a drill hole. It's simply the length multiplied by the grade. But these are the top 10 holes. We drilled these all in 2020 and 21, and they're excluded from the resource. And actually, I forgot to tell you something. In here, the 90s, the 80s, 21, and 20, none of that is in the resource we talked about a couple slides ago. So do I know what the new resource number will be? No, but I do expect positive impact. I expect that resource number will be available to us possibly the end of February, definitely in March of this coming year, so this quarter. Like I said, I'm in the field because we did the field visit. We hired SGS Canada. SGS is a global company, but their Canadian office, one of their Quebec offices, is calculated the new resource, and they had to do their field visit, which has happened. So that's what brought me up north. Now, I did mention to you really quickly, this is what our drill holes look like. And I mentioned that we're going into the Pontiac. So this is where the Cadillac break is coming in under the Pontiac. This is important because it was always assumed that this bent contact it was always assumed it was vertical. So that would stop your potential material, the volume of material you're talking about. In fact, it's not vertical, it bends back and we undercut it. So that adds a lot of volume to the model. And looking at the model now from the top, from the surface, this is a plan view. In the new modeling, we've identified several vertical concentrations of material down to 300 meters depth, which is exciting because this is, as I told you, a deep camp, and we're looking for plunging chutes, vertical mineralization concentrated where the Cadillac break, which is a big fault, is affected by a cross-cutting fault, and it's the conduit for gold. We also, for the first time, have mapped this contact with the sediments, which gives us a fold, and there's a lot of geology that goes into this. But I'll be putting this on my website, renforthresources.com, and you can always download it and look at it. Or if you have more questions, email me, Nicole at Renforth Resources. So this is actually an image a friend of mine made, and there is a spelling mistake on it, but I have to get him to remake the map. We are in the Malartic camp. So Yamana takeover by Agnico was just announced 2-3 weeks ago. This is the Canadian Malartic mine being taken over by Agnico Eagle. In case you're not familiar, Agnico Eagle is Canada's largest mining company, more than 10,000 employees. It's a gold mining company. They took over, sorry, not Yamana. Yamana was taken over a couple years ago. O3, they just took over O3 a couple weeks ago. So Agnico is becoming the huge landowner. This is their crown jewel, the LaRonde mine, and this is their Goldex mine. This is their Canadian Malartic mine. They've taken over O3, which has a lot of prospective ground. The only exception in the consolidation of this camp was Eldorado several years ago, actually took over Integra, and they've opened that mine. Here we are. There's our Malartic metals package, and there's our Parbec gold deposit in bright green in an active consolidation camp. So if M&A is your thing, if that's what you want to try and play, it's called an area play, then we are a candidate for an area play. And the recent gold transactions also give us a pretty good valuation for an ounce of gold in the ground. It doesn't help us with the valuation of our battery metals property. Our battery metals property is unique. It's huge. It's never been done before. You can see all the gold deposits or mines around us in yellow again. But at Malartic, we have a pronounced geophysical signature, which gives us ultramafics. It's showing us the ultramafics. Those are carrying the nickel, platinum, palladium, cobalt package. And mixed in with the ultramafics is a VMS, which we do not have a geophysical signature for. The VMS gives us copper, zinc, silver, and gold. So Victoria, we've done the most work on over the 20 kilometers. Lalonde is longer. We've done less work. There's a showing Fouillac, same material. There's a showing in here, a fourth showing, the same material. And actually this week we announced that this geophysical signature is made up of a mostly ultramafics. So we've increased the volume of ultramafics and the scale of the nickel mineralization on the property significantly. The copper discovery is up here. And now you can see better the road that goes right down the property, the hydroelectric generating power line, Canadian Malartic mine. The mine road comes around and goes down. We take the mine road and then we take a lumber road in to get to our gold deposit. So we're concentrated in an area with two very interesting properties, both of which are well endowed with metals, either gold, which we like right now, as a hedge. We're not going to go into the macro for gold, but we're very well endowed with earlier stage battery metals, which are needed for the transition we all know we're facing of energy storage. So Victoria, where that black star is, we've drilled 2.5 kilometers with about 10,000 meters of drilling. The trend is about 20 kilometers long. So we've got a lot of the trend undrilled, and you can see Lalonde to the north and then the newly identified ultramafic material in the center. We can model a solid associated with the Victoria Horizon. The same group that's doing the 43101 update for Parbec, once complete, will move to helping us declare a maiden resource for Victoria. However, the first step of that process will be a gap analysis, because I feel we might have to do some more drilling before we can declare that maiden resource. But it holds together. However, to be clear, it's not a deposit yet. We cannot use that word until there's a resource in place. However, it's very well positioned, and it's battery metals, which we need. Now, it's vast. I told you it's 20 kilometers long. I probably forgot to tell you that that mineralization starts on surface as well. The mineralized package east-west is 20 kilometers. In terms of north-south, it's between 150 and 500 meters. So it's big. And it's low grade. It's nickel in the 0.25 range, and you'll get to a higher equivalent number if you want to add all the metals, but we don't really want to go down that route. But there is copper, there is zinc, there's other metals there. So it is polymetallic, but there's a lot of it. So that means you'd have to build a really big mine. And inherent in a mine, there's waste. So what we've done, we're trying to employ new technology and be more efficient. And we've gone to a company called Tomra in Germany, and they're one of the world leaders in sorting technology for mining. So they literally run the crushed material along a conveyor belt. Then they're using XRT detection. They've discovered our material emits an EM signal, some of the sulfides. And then they would jettison the waste. So they can accurately show us what is waste and what is mineralized using their XRT technology and their proprietary algorithms. What this really means is, as part of a production scenario, when we get there, we would put a Tomra circuit in, you'd crush the material, you'd run it through Tomra, and you'd discard all the waste. So now going further down the processing line would simply be mineralized material. You're reducing your costs because your CapEx, your build out can be smaller. You're going to use less in terms of chemicals, less water, create less waste. So you're also concentrating your grade. So your grade of the material, because grade is a function, it's a percentage function of weight. So if you can reduce the weight, you increase the grade. So you're really ramping up the efficiency of the property. So really excited about this and where we can go with this. We just have to get back to it, because right now we're working on the gold. So that being said, oh, too many slides. Before we leave this property, I told you there was a copper discovery right in the north, very close to the Cadillac Break, which is the dashed black line on this map. And we stripped it. We removed the overburden, which was very shallow, over about 180 meters to expose the main vein, which is hard to tell in this image, to be honest. It is running right through here if you are in fact able to see my cursor. However, what we exposed was copper, high-grade copper, with silver. It needs more work to be done, but it's definitely there. This is chalcopyrite, the greenish yellow metal in the middle, surrounded by the rusty quartz. So we actually have done some more work this past summer on the surface, and we came up with a lot of gold numbers, which we didn't expect. So this is a bit of an enigma, but it is a virgin copper discovery, which is a very exciting thing. Now, we are at the end, but I'm going to leave us with this image here, because I really cannot overstate the value of our location. Our location, the accessibility of green power, the accessibility to purchasers or processors of our material, the accessibility to deep water ports, to the eastern seaboard of the United States with all the auto manufacturing and every other kind of manufacturing. We're in the near north, and this is what really is exciting about what we have. We can afford to have a ridiculous amount of battery metals of a relatively low grade and use optimization technology because we don't have to deliver it very far. And the gold, well, the people who want the gold are probably sitting around us, and there's very much a consolidation going on in this camp as well. Hence the fact that we're focused on updating the resource right now. So that is our two properties, and I can hide this slide now because I've pretty much said what I had to say. And
Great.
I don't
Well,
know if we want to do questions or what we want to do. Am I still
sure.
sharing?
Well, first, I want to thank you for speaking to us. You're a very good speaker, articulate, and the presentation was very methodical. So that indicates you're a good manager as well. Maybe just to summarize the production schedule. When are we going to see production coming out of some of these mines?
So that's actually a fascinating question. With regards to the gold deposit, I'm going to give you the bigger picture there. Update the resource. Why? Because there are always people interested in looking at this property, talking to me about alliances, options, etc., etc. And I need to have the best information to arm myself with going into those discussions. So updating the resource, we're going to have to wait for it, but not long. In conjunction with updating the resource, we get a new 3D model. And I've been talking to a company which does surgical mining. The way the mineralization, if you recall, you saw it coming into the sediments, moving away from the Cadillac break. We've always had a back of the envelope plan to do a small open pit to take the gold out of the ground and create some cash flow with the small open pit. However, the surgical mining technology could do it better and with less environmental impact. We need the updated 3D model, and then that will go to the company that does the surgical mining. But I'm very excited about employing their technology. It probably will be viable. They utilize AI and new equipment, and they basically mine by very large scale drill holes, and then you backfill them, so you're not creating a pit, any of that. Your question was timeline. Well, that it's new technology. So really it would have us producing, if it works, within 2 years, the gold. The nickel, the polymetallic, honestly, that's probably a production that's probably in the 5 to 10 year bucket between finishing the drilling and then starting the permitting. However, I spent this morning actually reading new analysis of the nickel market, and they're forecasting significant deficits 2030 forwards, because that gives the nickel market time to digest the deluge which is Indonesia slash China in the nickel market right now. So, 5 to 10 years, I think that'll have our timing right on par with the nickel market. Whether you believe in EVs or not, and I'm speaking like Canada just ran out of the EV tax credit closed this past weekend because they ran out of money. But it's not just about EVs, it's storing energy, period. So nickel is required. And I think with some luck, we might be looking at producing just as we're coming into a deficit for nickel. So.
Okay. That's helpful. Another question was dealing with the relationships you have with the local governments. Are they cooperative in terms of permitting, or, you talked
Yep.
about the road accessibility. Have anything else you want to say?
For sure. So I'll speak to two issues. The government as a whole, the provincial government of Quebec, is aware of they're aware of the gold property, but there's lots of gold properties in Quebec. The nickel property is very unique in Quebec. We actually received a grant for metallurgical work on the nickel property to give us the ability early on to start to plan for what production might look like on the property. So the government's very supportive, as demonstrated in the receipt of the grant. Your other question, permitting, the province of Quebec has just changed their permitting regime. I permit actually for the impact on the property in terms of trees and local communities. We don't permit the drill hole per se. So from the road on the metal property where we drilled the 2.5 kilometers, which is west of the road, we actually are on the treaty land of the Pikogan First Nation, approximately an hour north. We have a very good relationship with Pikogan. They have to sign off on every permit we've ever received on the property, which they've done without any delay. Now the consultation extends to the communities of Rouyn-Noranda and Rivière-Heva and Malartic, the local non-Indigenous communities, and they've all signed off as well. So we're in a mining camp. Everybody here makes their living one way or another by mining. So social acceptability of mining is in place. We've had no issues with any of the communities we deal with or the permits we've requested, and I don't see any reason for that to change. We just received permits yesterday, no, Tuesday, for some stripping we intend to do in the summer. So, it's been good, and knock on wood, that continues.
Okay. Another question was if you want to tell us about the depth of your management team.
Well, we're small and lean. Myself and the CFO are the officers of the company. We actually get paid in shares. We are the debt. If you look at our financial statements accruing, it's been accruing for more than 2 years now. So there's no employees. There's no significant burn to Renforth. The money pretty much goes all in the ground. We hire contractors when we have work to do. As we are a field-based exploration company and aggressively in the field, that pretty much means we hire contractors with specific project mandates. And then, I'm managing that process in conjunction with the CFO. But we have a board of directors. We have a great deal of technical expertise, both amongst the contractors, our advisors, and our board. But we don't have any salaried staff. So
Okay.
lean and mean. It's how we keep it
So,
alive.
yes, well, we can tell you're on top of all of the details. It seems like you're doing a great job managing all this. Just two more quick questions. Insider ownership and cash burn.
Insider ownership. I'm no longer the largest individual retail shareholder. One of my shareholders gave us money at the end of the year, and he eclipsed me by about 1 million shares. Myself, I probably own about 3.5–4% of the company, somewhere in there, which is everything I own. I know it's not the biggest number in the world. Lots of CEOs will give you bigger numbers, but they collect big salaries that I don't collect. Burn rate is our audit. Well, I can share with you, we've reduced our audit costs for this upcoming year by about $10,000 to $15,000. I was aghast at what we paid for our last audit, which was $55,000. Legal fees are incidental. The exchanges charge us fees monthly. We stepped back from our OTC QB listing because we still trade on the OTC. We're still DDS, I forget the term. We're still deposit eligible in the United States. So there's no issue there, but it was to save fees. So our listing fees in Canada are probably about 20,000 annually. Incidental transfer agent fees. All of this rolls up into the fact that the company survives between audit, insurance, and other incidental fees for 100,000 Canadian or less. Because again, there's no salaries. So it's really like I'm hyper aggressive and very stubborn because everything I own is in this company, so it's not going anywhere.
Well, good. Thank you very much for speaking to us. We can tell you're very dedicated and very detail oriented. So seems like Renforth Resources is in very good hands. So Nicole Brewster, thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you so much. And again, renforthresources.com or Nicole. Happy to answer any question. And thank you everyone for your time. And Davos in the desert for the format.
You're welcome. Okay, so that concludes the presentation. We'll take Nicole off of the speaker. And that actually concludes the program. So we appreciate all the attendees for joining us. Appreciate the good questions that were sent to us. And we hope to see you at other Davos in the Desert events in the very near future. Thank you very much.